Hayes McKenzie and UK ProBuild have both worked on the project which we've entered, and we're very appreciative to have been shortlisted for the award. The project is a basement flat conversion on an end of terrace property in Salisbury. The unique structural issues with the property led to some interesting problems with sound insulation. The reason we were able to overcome the problems so effectively was mainly due to a good relationship with UK ProBuild, without using too much in the way of specialist products or significantly adding to the cost of the build. The steelwork in the property was the main issue to overcome, and through collaborative design we ended up with an interesting design of steelwork that had lots of different sections all isolated from one another rather than large pieces of steel that would transmit sound easily. There was also some innovation on the main king post, which was a box section. We filled that box section with acoustic expanding foam, which made a huge difference to its resonant properties and deadened the sound transmission significantly. The results were incredible, much better than the building regulations requirements, and closer to what you might find in recording studios than what you'd expect in a residential flat. Can you tell us a bit more about the steel tree?
Each of the 4 levels of the support needed to have a variety of bits of steel coming off it, and Bob redesigned the steel to have flanges on. So you then had a steel casting from the post to the outside wall with the rubber washers between it and the flange, and then the steel post itself, which is filled, and then on the other side you've got a flange for the steel to go to that wall. So you actually broke the steel from wall to wall to get rid of the vibrations from the floor. The steel tree was then 3 sections of box section with a collar on.
But the main challenges there were getting the separation between all the steel work. You also filled the square section with Sudal acoustic foam.
It took it from a ring to a dead nose. It was an unknown until you came out with the testing equipment. And then we were standing there looking at the results and saying, oh, actually the bits between that, awesome. It turned out that it was so quiet, you'd picked up on a level within the hertz spectrum that was carrying up the steel, but it was so ridiculously quiet that you wouldn't normally be able to hear that part of the spectrum anyway. There was a design, there was a plan. You and I walked around the building for about an hour at least before we'd even put the plan in place. We then fed that plan into the structural engineer's design. We then fed that plan into alterations to the position of things up through the building. And it was considered from concept to delivery. It paid attention to the acoustic requirements. We're getting the new staircases to sit independently from the wall. The acoustic mastic down the stringer, pushed it into the wall and put a couple of screws in it just to stop some lateral moving. But the actual design of the staircases is that the stringers are structural and they take it from the floor to the wall at the back. But you then go in the building itself, and you now become aware of it in all the other designs. You become aware of it in 70s and 80s flats when somebody flushes the toilet. And you really do become aware that what we're doing with sound insulation and isolation between buildings
makes a big difference.
It does. It's a massive difference to your living usability of a building. It's not mega money, and it just needs a little bit of sense and care at the design stage, that then is followed through and carried out. The difference in a block of flats or a row of terraces, when you do simple things like spin the joists around so that they're not on the party walls, you can achieve it with some sense and planning and not a huge cost.
You can get excellent results with any renovation project using relatively cheap materials, not significantly adding to the cost, but just putting a bit of thought in at the right time and designing things as you go along. It would be nice to see all building projects of this type have the same sort of end results with relatively little addition to the cost of the project. It's a very sustainable way of improving the quality of a build